What's up, folks? Welcome to Oreland. In today's video, we are going to be explaining the First Rival War. Now, you may be wondering, what is Oreland and what is the First Rival War? Oreland is a pretty much fake continent and that I've been developing the story of since I was in fourth grade, and this is pretty much just like a kind of a side project. This channel is just kind of a side project from my main YouTube channel called Sanjev. If you want to subscribe to that, please do. Trying to get a lot of subscribers over there. It'd be very nice if we could reach my 100 subscriber goal since I'm currently at 71. Now, now I know all these countries by heart, but just because I oh my gosh. Now I know all these countries by heart. I know what every single one of those named. I know every single thing. I know what all these mean, but y'all may not. So we're gonna make sure, and I'm just gonna label all the countries with a little bit of text here so y'all can understand which is which. So as you can see, I have named all the countries. And if you see a gray line here, it pretty much just means it's a widely recognized state that is kind of more of a separatist state and it's more of a like a I guess you could say like it's a semi-independent government. And both of these states, Nome and Norserin, are both owned by Norse here, which I actually named not knowing about the Scandinavian mythology, but and then over here, as you can probably see, this country over here is really messed up. We have Mitria, that is the name of this island, that is most of this country here. And you can see it says FPM, which that means Federalist Party of Mitria. And federalism means something entirely different in Oreland, and I will make a video at some point explaining what federalism means. Then we have the Socialist Party of Mitria, which I just went ahead and typed down instead of abbreviating. Then we have the Liberalist Party of Mitria, which once again means something completely different. Then we have the Lincolnite Republic of Mitria, uh, which is just its own like kind of semi-republic. So the Mitrian government pretty much does not exist at this point. The year is 2121 on this map. So, and this war has been raging since 1753, the Civil War here. So they're all constantly killing each other. There's some events where there's like over 100 tiny parties just constantly going against each other, but that's it. That's another video. Right here we have Potria, which is just this island. It used to be all of these islands, but then the Civil War happened. Hudica right here. Hudica is a federalist country, so they're pretty good at allies with the FPM down here. Potria is a liberalist country, though it has a strong history of being federalist. Then over here we have the main character of nations, I like to say Zatria. Zatria is the first nation I ever came up with the Oreland all the way back in fourth grade, and pretty much they are the America of Oreland, as they were the ones who revolted against the massive empire and one eventually rose to be the dominant power. And they even had their own version of War 1812 called the Renegade Revolution, but that is a whole different thing. Once again, this is about 400 years after that happened. You can see Zatria, and here's Balaska. Balaska used to own quite literally everything, but they don't own as much now. Then here we have the Austro-Republic Legasins, which, once again, all these countries broke free from Balaska. So we have the Kingdom of Mossos Waronia. Once again, these guys broke away from Balaska, and these guys broke away from the Kingdom of Mosul. So it's a lot of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and this video. So why is the first rival war called the rival war, and why is it called the first rival war? Well, there's actually 10 rival wars, all of which are extremely large and extremely devastating to the Oreland population, and we will get through all of them in the series, hopefully. Now, the rival war is called the rival war because, well, it's just multiple rivals constantly beating against each other and going to war and fighting each other. So it pretty much as you can probably guess, I want you to take a second before I say it and guess who the rivals in Oreland are. I'll give you 5 seconds. All right, so the two major rivals are Norse and Zatra here, and pretty much these are the two leaders of their factions, and you can probably guess why. Both of them are similar size. They're both pretty powerful, and Nome is kind of a less separatist version of Norse, but I'm gonna explain the entire Norseman politics in another video. And so Zatria is going to pair up with Balaska, their former ruler from 400 years ago. So it's really honestly not that big of a deal anymore. And Norse is going to team up with the Austro-Republic of the Legasins, who is very anti-Alaska because they want control of this central river system, which runs right through this area right here. Oh, my bad. Which runs right through this area right here. and pretty much they're constantly battling for this region right here, and there's been a lot of wars over it. So yeah, you can probably guess why these two don't like each other. And then next we have uh, Potria gearing up and going to work with Zatria because they're pretty good allies. Zatria has a long history of kind of colonizing Potria, but they're still kind of just close allies because that government's no longer installed as the was Williamist era Zatria, but that is a whole other thing. And then right here we have Maitria, which even though the country's in civil war, they've been civil war so long. Anytime there's like a international threat to the country. Like we can chill out to stop killing each other for now and just kind of like work together to go and defend Maitria. So the FPM, or the Federalist Party of Maitria, as before mentioned, is kind of is kind of recognized as the official governing body of Maitria because one, they're the most powerful, two, they hold the most land, and are also just kind of seen as the leader of the Federalist world. So Maitria is going to team up with Norse, and Potria is going to team up with Zatria, as before mentioned. But Northern here, who is trying to make a bid for official independence, is going to team up with Zatria here. So it's going to cause kind of a civil war. And uh, these wars between Norse and Northern go really far to the point where there was an entire coalition just about the war and just about trying to get Northern independence from Norse, and then federalism just took over Norse once again. Entire other video because federalist is no, everything on mainland Oreland is a liberalist nation. Uh, Hudica and Mitra are the only two federalist nations. And you might be wondering, what are these guys down here? Who are they? Like I said, Kingdom Mosuls and Floweronia. They're going to remain neutral in this war. Floweronia is a neutral state. So much of the fact that they even have a pact that pretty much just protects them from being invaded because of, well, they help. They're just chill guys. They're like the Switzerland of Oreland. Kingdom Mosuls are going to stay because they're currently undergoing one of their very own civil wars, which is also just devastating to them. And yeah, we're just going to go right into this video, and I'm sorry it took so long, yo. So pretty much Norse, Legasins, and Maitria are going to meet up at a meeting called the Council of Gatoma. And Gatoma is the capital city of Norse, so just keep that in mind. And pretty much this meeting is between the three countries' leaders. It's pretty much just kind of securing a military alliance to kind of change the balance of power in Oreland, which the balance of power had shifted towards Zatria for so long at this point. Zatria was a weak nation, and they were pretty much taking advantage of a lot of the trade. So pretty much, yeah, this plan and this, they're all gonna invade their respective countries. Maitri is gonna invade Potria, North is gonna invade Zatria, Alaska, or the Alexans is going to invade Alaska, and this is going to cause Norsemen to officially separate and join the fight against Norse. Zatria starting the Second Norse Civil War. We'll get to the first. It's a lot of stuff. So this is pretty much what the map looks like in about 2 weeks into the war, and as you can see, Norse has made some decent advances inside of Zatria. The year is 2121, by the way, and this is the current advance. But Legacy has made a really good amount of advance in Balaska here, and really at this point, all Potria or all Maitria is really doing to Potria is they're really just more kind of they're really just kind of bombarding the Potrian coast rather than going straight into an invasion. And this is going to be one of the major reasons Maitria tends to struggle less in their invasion of Potria than other countries do eventually. But as you can see, we have some red being taken in Norserin and just a tiny bit in Nome here, but that's more of this rebellion kind of moving forward. Zatria, Zatria hasn't even really moved any troops into Norserin as they're all really getting on this front here, try and stop the invasion from Norse, and eventually the Legasins, once they kind of brutalize Alaska, are going to try their best to push into Zatria here. But these are just kind of rebel forces just starting to try and take over Norserin so they can help fight Zatria. And this is going to be a major contributor on why Norse is kind of weakened here at the beginning of the war. Norse is going to successfully continue their advance into Zatria here and even start capturing some major cities, such as the city of Tabako right here and the city of Topanga, which is a very important city in the Zatrian Revolution, which I will make a video on eventually. And as you can see here, they're kind of using this three-pronged invasion strategy. Pretty much what the strategy is it's kind of like So you see, they use three advancement lines. You can see one down here, one to the right, and one to the left here. And pretty much what this does is this kind of leaves that. So this territory right here is surrounded by two sides of Norse forces. So therefore, once they take this land, they can move it in easier and take this land as well. And it just helps them capture more land. And this is going to be another major contributor to why Norse is able to actually take so much land in this early stages of the conflict. And sure enough, three-pronged strategy works, and they capture these cities, and they just continue to move in and begin trying their best to start capturing these areas and as well. Over here, as we can see, Alaska is starting to kind of struggle here and starting to slow down their defenses as they're just getting the absolute crap bombed out of them, honestly. And it's really making them struggle and kind of messing them up here as Legacy continues to advance towards the capital of Odin. There is a lot of Scandinavian mythology terms that I did not mean to put in here. My bad. Maybe Odin was purposeful. I don't know, but I know for a fact Norse was not. Anyways, as you can see, they start trying to kind of surrounding the city, and this all kind of begins the Siege of Odin. The Siege of Odin is one of, if not the deadliest battle in the First Rival War. Actually, second deadliest battle because the Siege of Miller is way deadlier, but we're not even there yet. At this point, it is 22-20. It's 21-22, and Zatria is continuing to be pushed back in their own territory, and it really is just not going well. And you can see, as we mentioned, you did not really see Norsemen be able to successfully really do anything, the Norsemen rebels, but they do manage to capture the capital of Norsemen here, which pretty much just kind of allows them to start directly assisting Zatria in the entire, invasion effort or to counteract the invasion. So this kind of does allow Zatria to push back Maitri a bit as they are starting to have to focus a bit more on the entire, internal war thing that's kind of going on in their country. And this is going to mess Norse up. It's going to slow them down heavily. It's going to weaken them heavily. Meanwhile, in mid-February, as you can see, um, Maitreya finally begins their landing into Potria, and is going to kind of stall at first, although they are going to successfully capture the beaches, all except for here, as the fierce resistance from the Potrian military, due to the fact that this is, well, um, kind of the beach that is pretty much directly next to the capital, I would say. They are trying their best to make sure that does not end up being captured. At this point, Zatrian bombing raids are now devastating the coastal areas of Maitria here, as Maitria, as they're just invading Zatria's ally, and Zatria is trying their best to defend their ally here. Though, of course, they cannot focus as much as they would like to on stopping Maitria's invasion of Potria, as they kind of have their own problems, as you can see here. The Siege of Odin is taking so many resources from Legasins that is also just kind of stalling their invasion here, as they even start to kind of get pushed out of North Balaska here. And Norse decides to come in and back them up, further stretching out their resources, which, by the way, really going to come and mess them up. Northern Norseman also at this time is solidified to be under rebel control, as well as some parts of southern Nome, and the rebels continue to push in more and more into Nome, as it is a very vital place for Navy combat, as you can see, as it is really the only major peninsula inside of Oreland. We have like this over here, but we don't talk about that because we just pretend like it doesn't exist because I don't have a name for it, despite doing this for 5 years. But despite the very large overreach of resources funding on this front, now this front, sorry about the Xbox, Norse is still managing to push further into Zatria, and they're kind of thinking at this point like, okay, we kind of have to use minimum resources to hold um, our territory in North Alaska, as that is Legacy's problem, not really ours, even though we did put them up to it. And we're just gonna have to really try our best to continue pushing into Zatria and defending our territory north, as that is a um, pretty decent move from the Norse king or emperor. He liked calling himself emperor. That is King Chadwick II of Norse, and you can see he is not exactly liked. As you can see, probably later I'll probably make the worst kings in Oreland history video. That I have a lot of video plans for Oreland. There is so much lore to go over, and subscribe if you want to see more of those because I really am more passionate about this than my main channel, honestly. As you can see, despite the assistance from Norse, the invasion, the Noman siege is not, or the siege of Odin by Lycusans and now Norse is not exactly doing too well as far as going further. And as you can see, Fort Myer, which is kind of like a major city in Potria, a lot of the major cities are called forts because Potria is constantly getting invaded. Something you're going to learn almost every video they get invaded. But yeah, continuing, they have a lot of forts. So pretty much the east coast of Pocha is gone. The west coast, and they're holding on for dear life at Fort Barbacoa. That is the capital of Pocha. I swear I'm not making this up on the way. I have all this memorized. In 21-23, they're going to continue and itch ever closer to Miller, the Zadran capital, and they're gonna even manage to push back Northern forces here. And it really just kind of seems like everything's kind of screwed up as finally, after nearly 2 years of fighting, um, Odin falls and Alaska is fundamentally knocked out the war, and most of the country is occupied by Norse and mostly Austro forces, as Austro is the name for Legason, people Legasons. And pretty much they kind of make this eastern part here, which into a puppet state. So this, yes, it does say by via the map that Alaska does have control of Odin, but really Norse and Legasons does because it's a this area right here is a puppet state. But we're gonna keep that. We're just gonna make this kind of another bluish color. We're gonna make it a bit of a darker blue here, and that is going to symbolize that one. That's going to symbolize um, puppet state for Norse here, but that's not gonna last longer as you're gonna see. And it kind of seems like this war might not go too well as it's official because okay, y'all gotta understand Miller's huge. Like it's like this. So like it's gonna it takes up a large part of Zadria. It's a very why should you keep leaving? It's a massive part of Zadria. That's just something you gotta understand. So that's gonna so the Inter Miller now hasn't been taken completely, but certain battles such as the Battle of Miller and the Siege of Miller are very big things in the First Rival War, and is kind of considered the turning point of the war. But we'll get to that here in a second, do. And really all of Zatria's allies are just kind of trying to fail and fall, and yeah, as most of Potria now taken, Fort Barbacoa is taken, and Potria is pretty much completely under control of, you know, all of that. So over here we have it's not looking good for Zatria, honestly, especially since now Norse is able to refocus their efforts on this invasion and also on taking back the land. Oh, snap. What am I doing? Wait, why is that? Huh? Maybe because it's tolerant. Okay. Because of, like, they just have more resources now. And their rebels are pretty much completely pushed out of Nome, and the Northern capital falls, and nothing's looking good, y'all. If I'm being totally honest here, and it's about 21-24, and in about 21, in late 21-24, they officially attack Miller Academy, which is pretty much the biggest college in Zatria, and that just kind of leads to this massive surge, as you know, when your military is actually murking students of a foreign country, most of which are, very young, and attacking a school, it doesn't really get funded by the country you're attacking, and it kind of leads to this new wave of motivation, and really just more people start signing up for the Zatrian military. The war effort seems to really have a meaning, and it's really just to avenge Miller Academy, and that's something that people can actually fight for and get behind. So just and so uh, by 21-26, which is 2 years past that. Norse is now kind of struggling on the Zacian front at least. They have pretty much completely wiped out the rebellion inside Northrend. And it's just kind of, they went from pretty much winning the war to now kind of being like, okay, are we still winning? Are we not? Blah blah blah. And by 28 and by 2128, they have lost a lot of territory. And by 2129, Zatria has officially began pushing into Northrend and Norse, having a much easier time in Northrend because, well, most people in Northrend wanted Zatria to take them over so they could gain freedom, fully capturing Northrend and beginning to push for further Norse. And before they can reach the Norse capital, Norse issues surrender, and in 2130, the First Rival War ends as Zatria as the victor. And this is pretty much what happens after the war ends. You can see Balaska gained a lot of territory as they were officially freed as part of the treaty. They tried to make Maitreya like give up Hotria, but Maitreya refused. This led to a 4-month-long war between Zatria and Maitreya called the Zatrian-Maitreyan War, and Maitreya won, being able to keep uh, Potria. And Norse got a large decrease of territories, and Norseland became an independent country for the first time in its history. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more Oreland episodes, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell if you don't know Fruity. I will see you all next time.